Today, we are going to talk about being under the influence. So, you are under the influence of anything that you are affected by. You're under the influence of anything that you are affected by. If something or somebody can alter your natural reasonable response, it is an influence, okay? An influence is transferable. So you get influenced by something, and then however you respond causes someone else to be influenced by what you did, right? The way you are is because of what influences you, and the way you are not is because of what influences you as well. So whatever comes out of your mouth, whatever you allow into your head, whatever you do, it is influenced by something. The way you respond is according to what you were influenced by. Your response, once again, to an influence can also influence someone else. Okay. Influence has a way of nesting and making itself comfortable in your mind, body, and will. When I say you're under the influence, influence has a way of making itself comfortable in your mind, your body, and your will. And so that's why we have to pay attention to what is influencing us and also what influence we may be to someone else. It has a tendency to arrange people and their surroundings to create a place where it feels secure, where it feels comfortable or in control. Okay. Control with a positive influence is great. It can propel you, it can push you into your destiny, it can push you to be the best version of yourself. But a negative influence will confine you, it will constrict you, it will stagnate you, a negative influence will kill your dream. It'll cause you to create alternate versions of yourself. Okay. And what you are influenced by affects your momentum. It affects how fast you go. If you go at all, it affects if you are distracted easily. Okay. A less qualified, less experienced person will gain more territory, will gain more influence than you because they're moving while you allow negative influences to make you stay still, make you be stagnant. Okay. And that's why somebody that might have been in last place ends up in first place and vice versa. Somewhere along that race, the first person stopped, got distracted, slowed down, sat down, or turned around instead of continuing to move. So when we talk about being under the influence, pay attention to if that influence is positive or negative. So not all influences are beneficial. Not all influences are beneficial to you. What and who you are influenced by can control your mind and body. Mind and body. Okay. Negative influences, they manipulate their way into your thought process. Okay. And then your emotions, and then finally your will until it's nice and comfortable and able to control all aspects of you. So a positive influence is consistent. A positive influence is consistently fruitful. It's consistently beneficial to you. Okay. Your thinking is influenced or affected by your experiences, your thoughts, the way that you think. You are influenced by your emotions. You're influenced by your environment, the environment that you're in, the environment that you grew up in. And this is how influences shape your character and personality. When you are young, you mimic how the people around you act, how they respond to their emotions, how they respond to different events, right? Your emotional intelligence is created by those that influenced you as a baby, even at as early as 6 months. You learn to respond and mimic those around you. Okay. Some people in your life can alter the way you behave, they alter your personality just from a few interactions with them. And I know you probably can think about some people that really impacted your life, and from the moment you met them you've never been the same, right? That's because they were a beneficial influence, but you have influences that are not beneficial to you. Okay. If you've had negative influences in your family, but say you went to go stay with an aunt or a godparent or something for a few weeks during the summer, when you come back, if you notice your relatives are like, hey, you're acting different. You're not acting the same. It's because you were influenced. Okay. So think about these things when you're choosing people to be your friend, when you're choosing your spouse, even the jobs you go to. Think about how these people will influence you. Okay. If they are a negative influence or positive influence, it will alter your thinking. And your thinking will alter how you feel, and how you feel will alter your emotions, which can alter who you are and who you decide to be. Okay. If they're a positive influence, like I said, we have people that come into our lives in just a short amount of time with them can influence us positively, right? Having and recognizing those boundaries in your circle is important to your mental, emotional, and spiritual health. Okay. If your thinking process isn't clear and stable, there's sure to be confusion in your feelings and emotions, especially around negative influences. Set those boundaries on who you are influenced by. How much power are you giving these people or these influence that you're making permanent in your life? How much power are you giving them over your mind and over your body? Right? You are influenced by the opinion of others and your perceived opinion of others, right? It may not even be their opinion, but leaning to your own understanding, you determine that this is what they're thinking, that this is what they're going to do. And that's the way you respond. It may not be their opinion at all, right? But leaning to your own understanding, you responded to a false perception. Even when you judge yourself, when you're judging yourself, if you have this false perception of who you are comparing yourself to, you're doing it wrong, right? This is a false perception. When we are weary, when we are tired, when we're worn out, we end up on the wrong side because we have been influenced by the wrong thoughts. Okay. So even when you're tired, and I know you're tired, make sure you're paying attention to what is influencing you. Okay. In this state, and when you're comparing yourself, when you are tired or worn out or overwhelmed, you are comparing yourself to other people that's not in the same stage of life as you. They might be the same age, but because of who they were influenced by, it's a different perspective. Okay. Maybe they didn't grow up in the same environment as you, and maybe they didn't have the same influences as you had. Okay. So pay attention to that, especially when you are tired. Living in a constant state of substandard thinking and feeling and being, it has a negative influence on your spirit. And anything that has a negative influence in your spirit ends up having a negative influence in your soul. It's one thing for your spirit to be broken. When your spirit's broken, you can listen to some music, you can hear a positive message, you can be around someone who's loving, and it influences you to pick your spirit back up. But when you talk about having a fragmented soul or a wounded soul, it takes a whole lot more to repair that. So you want to be careful with those negative influences. Okay. Whatever your spirit entertains long enough will influence your soul, and those soul wounds are harder to repair than your spirit. Okay. Pay attention to your influences. Pay attention to your responses and how it's going to influence people that are watching you respond, right? Your interactions, your behavior. All of these things have affected your life. Okay. And the life of the people that are watching you, people that you lead. Okay. Having a solid foundation sets you firmly in the right place so that you're no longer in the wrong place with the wrong people under the wrong influences. Okay. Having a solid foundation sets you firmly in the place you're supposed to be with the people you are supposed to be with. Okay. Over the past several weeks, you should have been adjusting your attitude, right? Doing those, having that behavioral management for yourself. If you haven't, then there's a value issue there. You're not taking your life and yourself serious enough to do the work that is required to change your life for the better. Okay, we can sit around and we can talk about everything that's wrong in our lives, but until we sit down and acknowledge what's wrong, okay, I wasn't given this opportunity, but what can I do about it now? How can I change my mindset now? Right? And sometimes you don't want to change because you're already overwhelmed. Maybe somebody influenced you that you would never change, right? Maybe your circumstance or your situation has told you that it's too far gone. But if you are breathing, if you have the activity of your hands and your feet, and you have some sort of soundness of mind, you can change the outcome. Okay? If you have habits and you're one of those people that say that's just how I am, how did those habits form? Where did they come from? Who influenced those behaviors that you have? Who influenced your personality? Who influenced you to be the way that you are? And so maybe you didn't get what you needed to develop your own personality, right? You just, maybe you mimicked other people's personality that you thought was better than you, right? Your personality has not been properly developed due to your circumstances in childhood, right? Certain traumas that you've experienced, lack of positive guidance or positive influence. Maybe you have arrested moral development or spiritual development. Okay, that will cause your personality not to form correctly and you be who you were created to be. It causes stagnation because of those negative influences. Okay, so we have to adjust our attitude to grow. We can't keep the same character and the same bad habits and expect growth and expect progress. Okay, we have to learn how to respond to life as we see it in a way that causes us to move forward and not stop, not turn around, not go back and have to continue to redo things. Okay, whatever you want to think, whatever you want to feel, whatever you want to have, whoever you want to be is in your power, right? Now, that's good when it's positive, right? But when it's negative, it's not good, because then you can turn yourself into somebody that is detrimental, not just to you, but to other people, right? Because you influence other people, right? There is a sufficiency that lives on the inside of each and every one of us if you are a child of God, right? And because that sufficiency comes from him, you're not over influenced by things on the outside because it's already on the inside, right? And that's what brings about contentment. This is what causes you to value yourself once you recognize that what's on the inside of me is greater. And I can appreciate that more than needing someone on the outside to validate me. Okay. When you're stuck emotionally, it helps when you give yourself a reality check about your thoughts, making sure that they're accurate, making sure it wasn't from a negative influence in your life, making sure you're not overthinking or overgeneralizing anything. Okay. You need to be aware of your own mind, your own value, your own will. You need to be aware of it without the outside influences in order to generate true passion for anything, right? Not the illusion that comes from emotionalism. A lot of us are hyped up by things, right? But it's not really how you feel. It's not really who you want to be. And so there's a lot of that going on, this emotionalism in different groups around the world. It's going on with racism. It's going on in religions with spirituality. It's a lot of emotionalism. It's going on politically, socially, economically, right? What is your opinion before you are influenced by someone else or something else? What is your opinion? What is your will, right? What do you will to do? Okay. Yes, it's good to have information from other people and other sources, but does that information control the way you think? Right? Is what somebody putting in your ear controlling what you think about yourself, what you think about your future, what you're capable of? If it does, if what somebody says or something shows you or something you hear, if it affects your thinking, if it controls your thinking, is it consistent? Is it a consistent, fruitful influence in your life? Because you can have consistent negative influences in your life, right? And that's where you need to start setting up some boundaries. Okay. We give people too much power over our minds and our opinions, and we don't check the spirit that they're coming in, right? And anything that is affecting our spirit, before long, it will affect our soul. Okay. So know the difference between the influences that are good and the influences that cause an impairment. Okay. There's an impairment when what you are controlled by is negatively affecting your mind and your body, right? When you have a vision impairment, your vision is controlled by that deficiency, right? When you are impaired because of drugs or alcohol, the drugs and alcohol are in control, right? You're under the influence. This is how they work. They take control of certain areas of your body, of your mind, of your emotions, of your will, okay? Influences affect your ability to understand or perceive. It can affect it in a positive way or a negative way. If you are impaired or damaged by a particular influence, your perceptions become poison to you and to the people that are affected by your influences. So this is especially important if people look up to you. If you have friends that go to you for advice, make sure you're not influencing them negatively because you're allowing something or someone to influence you negatively. Okay, we have to steward those friendships, those relationships. If you're a boss, if you're a leader, you have to steward the wisdom that you have and make sure you're not impacting people in a negative way, right? So being under the influence of someone or something that causes you to be impaired, which means it weakens you or damages you or causes you to be less than you, less than your original self, it is a slow poison that travels throughout your thinking, your emotions, your feeling, and the way you are, your being, your very existence. Okay, so think about what is influencing your thinking, the way you think, the way you perceive things. What are you allowing in your ear? What are you allowing in your spirit? Okay, your character, your attitude, it influences your value, right? Because it determines how people perceive you. So the way you are acting determines how someone else sees you, the value that they place on you. Okay, but that was before you knew how to challenge those things and change it. How you perceive yourself may be due to your influences that you had no control over in your earlier development, right? Until today. Because now you know that you may need to limit those outside influences. Close some doors, right? Until you learn who you are, what your opinion is, right? So that even if a good influence comes, you can reason with it. You can test the spirit of it, right? Learn your boundaries. This is for your own protection, right? Because influences come to take control. Okay. When you begin to do what you are called, when you begin to operate in your purpose, influence will pursue you. Negative influences and positive influences, right? When you begin to do what you're called, influences will pursue you. God grants you influence when your faith cannot be shaken or moved by negative influences, okay? When you can stand in the midst of naysayers and not bow, not fall, not bend, not allow their words and their opinions affect what you're doing and what you came there to do. Okay, when it no longer affects what you believe, you will be pursued by your purpose. Okay, when you can be accountable to the people that you're going to influence, right? We cannot be in front of people that is like hanging on to our every word, and we're not thinking about, okay, well, how is this going to change their life? Like what I say, how I react, how I respond, because they're watching me. How is this going to impact their lives? Seductive influences, which is sorcery, are sent to corrupt your thoughts, your feelings, and change who you are. And so when you are influenced to this degree, you are literally under a spell. Okay, so sometimes people ain't mixing something up in a pot. They're not speaking words over you, but they're influencing you, right? They use this power through their words and actions to seduce you into being who they want you to be, or seduce you into thinking how they want you to think or feeling how they want you to feel. People do this. Okay, so it's important that you are not under the influence of seduction, of some type of sorcery or spell. Once you agree to an influence, you give it power over you, right? You are under the influence. Once you agree to an influence, good or bad, you give it power over you. And the key is to set boundaries for people you are influenced by, right? There should be places that they don't control, okay? And never give any one person total control. Only person or being that should have total control is God, right? That is reserved for God. You shouldn't, like, as a person, you shouldn't even desire to have total control over a human being, right? People allow you to influence them in a healthy way, and they have a right to disallow you from entering into an area that they only reserve for God. Okay? You have people that can influence you in business, they can influence you spiritually, they can influence your family, they can influence your friendships, they can influence you financially, right? One person influencing you in every single area is not good, because now you begin to deal with codependency, right? A person who is codependent will plan their entire life around pleasing that person that is influencing them. The codependent self-esteem and self-worth will only come when they are sacrificing themselves for that other person, okay? And this happens in families. And the excuse we use is that, especially in parental relationships, because that person is a parent, we shape our entire lives around doing what they want, so that, you know, they influence us to think how they think, to be how they want us to be, right? But no one person should have total control in every area of your life, even in work relationships, because a person has a higher position, right? We become codependent, planning our entire career path based on what they're saying, right? Even in spiritual relationships with pastors or leaders and elders and the members, codependent. In marriages, codependency, right? All because a person has been given influence in every area. When you do that, that person has the authority to infiltrate your will and cause every decision to come through them. And if it's a negative influence, think about how many decisions are going through this person, right? Even if they don't physically say it. Remember, I told you, they will seduce you. You will literally be under their spell, because their influence has nested in your mind and in your will. So even if they don't say it, you're already thinking it. If I do this, they're going to think that. So let me do this, right? So check every area of your life. Check your boundaries or your lack of boundaries, okay? Check your momentum, which influences you have that are propelling you, and which ones are slowing you down or holding you back, right? Check your influences. Check the small ones, the subtle ones, and the codependent ones, right? Which ones affect your mind, your body, your spirit, and your emotions? And you have to deal with those accordingly, right? You don't want to continue to be under negative influences. You didn't have a choice when you were a baby. You didn't have a choice when you were a child, but you have a choice now as adults, right? To see, why do I think the way that I think? Why do I perceive the way that I do? Why am I responding like this? What has influenced your feelings? What has influenced your thinking? What has influenced you to be who you are today, right? And if you're around people that's causing you to be negative, they're negatively affecting your life, then you need to set some boundaries, right? If you don't set them, they're not going to set them for you because they have the control, right? That's what influence does. Okay, so today's session was on under the influence. Check your influences, right? Every influence. Some influence is not a person. Sometimes it's what you're reading, what you're listening to. Okay, what is influencing your feelings? It starts with your thoughts, moves to your feelings, and it becomes your way of being. Okay, so that is the session for today. We're going to end with our statement. Today is the day for the new me to follow the instructions, to be the example for my peers. I will be understanding. I will be more open to learn how to respond, to feel happy about all of the things that once affected me. I am somebody's answer today and in the future. So if you are influencing anyone, make sure you are a consistent, fruitful influence. Okay? So God bless you all. That ends this session. See you all next Friday.